A very good morning to you and welcome to Newsline, live from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Road, Colombo. Joining me this morning, as usual, is former diplomat and senior journalist, Bandula Jayasekara. Morning.
Good morning, Faraz. Nice tie today.
Thank you very much. Valentine.
Must be quite old tie.
It's Valentine.
Yeah.
How are you?
Fine.
And we're also joined this morning by Cabinet Minister Mahinda Samarasinha. A very good morning to you.
Morning.
And how are you?
Good, thanks.
And thank you for being on our network. Minister Samarasinha, of course, is usually the face of Sri Lanka at the UN. Is a very familiar figure at all these sessions. And are we going to start off with Geneva? Are we going to ask that?
It's up to you. You know, we can start, but we saw him in New York recently, not in Geneva.
That's
so
right.
Maybe we can start with New York.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, how was Sri Lanka taken?
Well, the reception was extremely good. Reception that the President received. When he was in New York, there were leaders who wanted to meet him. He set aside time to meet him. There were back-to-back meetings, really. His program was extremely busy. And, of course, the icing on the cake was when he was asked to sit on the head table with President Obama and President Putin. This slot, of course, is not given on the basis of a lottery being drawn. They pick and choose
who picks and who?
I think it was the Secretary General and his team, because that was his lunch.
Oh, I see.
And for the first time we were, center of attraction.
I see.
And of course the President made use of the time by briefing the world leaders who were on the table about his government's plan of action to move towards comprehensive reconciliation, the economic situation in the country, the challenges that we are facing, and so on and so forth. So it was an excellent opportunity given to Sri Lanka to explain what we are doing, and of course to improve the country's image.
And all this sort of good fortune and positive PR, all caused because the West sees an opportunity to be recognized by the Sri Lankan government, unlike the former?
Well, I think foreign policy is definitely a major part of this new reception that we are getting, the new welcome, in fact, to the that exclusive club where the major players are part of. And the fact that the foreign policy now is that we should get along with all countries, not have only favorites, and show that we have favorites, but that we, whilst we ensure good relations with our traditional friends, like China, Russia, Pakistan, India, Cuba, and so forth, that we should also reach out to the West, although it was the West who brought those three resolutions in 2012, 2013 and 2014, which resulted finally, subsequently, in this in the Darusman report, as well as the other report that was submitted this September. I think that has been a good policy for Sri Lanka. And now we are admitted to this club, and we should now consolidate our position.
Old boys club.
I mean, this club is the powerful club, which
but again,
should be a part of.
Described you as the face of Geneva, face of UN, but you always aspired to be Sri Lanka's foreign minister. Are you happy with your present portfolio, or you still want to be the foreign minister?
Well, I mean, this portfolio that I have received is a very challenging portfolio. It's a huge responsibility, working with the young people of this country, improving their skills, improving their employability, and of course solving economic issues that we are facing in this country.
So you are not the foreign minister in waiting.
Such as unemployment, and of course to get the economy going further in a positive direction. So I'm very happy with this portfolio. Of course, we are at the mercy of those who determine as to what we get. And whatever portfolio that I would get, even in the future, I will take it on and serve the nation.
And tell me, Minister, how essential was President Rajapaksa's foray towards the east, towards China? Did he truly not have any other option?
Well, I mean, obviously he didn't exercise other options. There were other options. But I can remember him constantly saying it's only China which can help us economically. They are the ones who have the money, and they don't have this sort of institutional issues like the West has. You know that for the US, before it gives money in the form of aid or loans, they have to get approval from Congress. They have to go before Senate. So there are sort of obstacles that have to be cleared. Whereas in China, it's they decide. They decide and they give the money, and
things move very fast.
He felt things move very fast, and he felt that the Chinese relationship is special in that context. Of course, that special relationship had that sort of other negative side of it, where some countries got excited when the Hambantota harbour facility was given. Then the story about submarine coming, and there were repercussions which resulted in, I suppose, some feeling that this is not the right foreign policy that Sri Lanka should follow. And we know what happened after that.
Faraz, taking from there, we have a question from a viewer, I think one of the respected journalists. He doesn't want his name mentioned, but he wants us to ask the minister. Says, many blame former president for making Western powers angry. But Western powers wanted the government to stop the offensive. They wanted to throw a lifeline to the sinking tigers. Would you have recommended stopping of the offensive? This is the question.
No, I don't think they wanted us to, for example, the US. If you take the US as an example, everyone knows that the US gave us intelligence information when the war was being fought, like India, like other countries. Of course, there were attempts by many of them to ensure that the humanitarian aspect is kept foremost in the mind of the armed forces, as well as those who take policy decisions. I was the chair of the CHA, which was the
Consortium of
Humanitarian Assistance. We met once a month in the Defense Ministry. All the key ambassadors were around the table, and of course the ICRC and the UN representatives. And we also had on our side the armed forces representatives and other key people in the administrative on the administrative side. And there were heated moments when certain proposals were put forward, but all in all, that was a forum that was used to hear their side and then see how we could find a via medium. And we did find a via medium, and there were certain very substantive concerns that were put forward. Some of them were accommodated, some of them were not accommodated, and as a result there may have been ill feeling among some of them that we were not listening to them. But then of course our job was to ensure that terrorism is defeated, and to ensure that there was zero civilian casualties. So that policy was always observed by the armed forces as a policy. But of course, when you fight a war such as that, there are civilian casualties that result. But we know that there was never a deliberate policy of targeting civilians, and we also know that the LTT used civilians as a human shield. But now, we need to account for those who have disappeared, for those who have been extrajudicially killed. There are media personalities who have been assassinated, such as Lasantha Wickrematunge, Eknali Goda, others who have been assaulted because of their, independence of the pen that they hold. And this has given the country a very negative image. And we need to now account for what what happened and apprehend the culprits and deal with them.
And tell me, Minister, this time round, there appeared to be a gap between the first and the second resolution. What happened in between? Why the gap?
Well, obviously the resolution that was finally presented to the Human Rights Council was a negotiated text.
Right.
The first one that was published in some of the newspapers locally and went on the internet was actually talking about this international inquiry and so on.
Was there a concerted effort to leave the word international out?
Definitely. Definitely, and as a result, we see different language in the hybrid was also dropped. Okay. The hybrid terminology was not used, but of course, some via medium had to be agreed upon. And
it's a good job our Prime Minister and so on all educated in good schools and can play with the English language.
Well, I mean, we know that the Prime Minister played a very active role. The Foreign Minister played a very active role in the negotiation process. The President's acceptance as a good leader, as a leader that can be trusted, played a very important role in getting them to agree to the language that we could live with.
That brings me to this other question. Now that this resolution has been sort of consensually agreed, does that mean that this figure of 40,000 killed during the last stages of the war, does that now mean that that 40,000 is agreed upon?
No, categorically no. We have always taken the position that no one can just pick a number. We also know the genesis of this 40,000 figure. Gordon Weiss, who was working with the UN, the spokesperson. When he left the UN, he published a book. And it was in the book that this 40,000 figure was first proposed. And then, of course, Darusman lifted that and put it into his report. And then he did the circles. The UN has never talked about a 40,000 figure, and no one has been able to count. Of course, there were some attempts made by the Sri Lankan government at that time to account for those who were missing, who had...
And we came up with a figure of about 7,000.
About 7,000, just under 7,000, including the 5,000 odd LTT cadre, which the Defence Ministry database even today has. So there was a scientific approach that was embarked on. There were door-to-door surveys that were taken. Tamil officials from that area, teachers and others participated in that door-to-door census and statistics effort. It was the Census and Statistics Department that came out with finally the figure.
I have two questions which are connected. There is one is, I remember after the first resolution when Dan was our ambassador in Geneva. After the first resolution, I saw hoardings all over the city with your photograph and Dan's photographs claiming victory. Right, from the first. And then my other question, which is interconnected, I remember an American lawyer working for the Israeli mission in Geneva told me in Geneva that this council is all about politics. So what happened since then, which you put up hoardings, you claim victory? What happened since then?
Well, I mean, it was definitely a victory in the sense that, we were able to set aside the EU resolution that was proposed, and we put forward a resolution supporting Sri Lanka's efforts to move towards comprehensive reconciliation, and that was adopted by nearly 2/3 of the 47 members of the Human Rights Council. But then, we took on another responsibility of doing what needed to be done to move towards comprehensive reconciliation, which also included the accountability aspects, the implementation of the 13th Amendment. Unfortunately, these aspects were not fulfilled. And as a result, we had the 2012, 2013, 2014 resolutions. And finally, a country that was able to muster nearly 2/3 of votes went down to 12 votes in the 2014 resolution. So really this is food for thought, that with this consensual text being adopted, that we can't claim victory. We shouldn't use the word victory, but of course we can say that it's language that we can accept and that we can live with. But we have now taken on a huge responsibility of doing certain things to move towards comprehensive reconciliation and show the international community that we have learned from the 2009 experience and that we are ready to deliver. And then of course we also have to bear in mind that there's an oral report that will be presented in June of next year, which will then assess what we have done between now and June, and then the comprehensive report that will be presented in 2017 June. In the 34th session, and by then we should be able to say that we have done substantive things to demonstrate that we have taken on board the suggestions.
But the council is all politics, like this American law.
That's the other part of your question, Bandula. Yes, I even today I can say very clearly, having been associated with the council really from its inception, that it's a political outfit. That is why the selectivity approach has always been there. It's not only about promotion and protection of human rights, it's also about politics.
And how are our regional neighbors like India, Pakistan and so on, how are they reacting to this?
Well, the Indian statement at the last council sessions, once the resolution was unanimously adopted, was a good statement. It talked about the implementation of the 13th Amendment. No one voted against the resolution. It was unanimously adopted. Pakistan made a
but the Indians
good statement.
The Indians talk of a proper devolution of power.
Yeah.
Why on earth do they want us to devolve power?
Well, it's their baby, no? I mean, the 13th Amendment was a result of the Indo-Sri Lanka Accord, and they have a vested interest in ensuring the implementation.
Personally, I don't think there's any politician or any presidential aspirant who will get elected to office if he genuinely wants to devolve power in that way.
Well, I don't think it's true anymore, because there was a perception that the Sinhala Buddhist vote was enough for a president to be re-elected, and that was proved wrong. I mean, we know what happened in the last presidential election. The Sinhala Buddhist vote, while it was around 74-75%, the minority vote, including minority religious voters going to the polls and voting for the swan symbol, was as high as 87%. So there were people who had never voted, who went and registered themselves and got their identity card done, and really went and voted because they wanted to vote Mahinda Rajapaksa, former president, out of office. So this is food for thought. This is a multicultural society. It's a multi-religious society. This is a multilingual society. We have to respect and nurture that diversity to ensure that finally we have a Sri Lankan
identity. Mahinda Rajapaksa lost, but Mahinda Samarasinghe also lost. Why?
Well, Mahinda Samarasinghe lost because not because of his unpopularity, but because there was a concerted effort to defeat anyone who stood with President Maithripala Sirisena. And there were door-to-door campaigns to say that if I was elected to Parliament, that I would ensure that Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe is made the Prime Minister, that I will not give my vote to the former president for him to be the Prime Minister. Even the former president, when he addressed rallies in Kalutara, he mentioned all the candidates' names, but when it came to my number and my name,
But you were very close to Mahinda Rajapaksa, the former. You were very
close. Well, I wouldn't say I was close, but I was loyal to him when he was the leader of the SLFP. And now I am loyal to President Maithripala Sirisena because he is the leader of the SLFP. I'm a party person. I don't have two leaders. I have only one leader.
But for us, but you notice, like he was saying, but he made sure that Ranil Wickremesinghe was made the Prime Minister. You did make sure.
I think I think these viewers are inundating your phone with SMSs, Pandita. In the meantime, I want to ask you this. In a war, obviously, there will be casualties and fatalities, and they need to be killed and done away with. But to do so at the expense of innocent people, how fair is that?
Well, it's not fair. Definitely. We have to ensure that professional standards are maintained, and I must say our army maintain those professional standards as a policy.
Yes, but
they never deviated from that policy of zero civilian casualties, and we also know that thousands of our armed forces personnel sacrificed their lives because they had to move inch by inch. I mean, there was no carpet bombing.
But let me add to Faraz. I'm saying this viewer, I like to get this viewer's question very clear. He views our program every day, and he says, there are allegations of thousands of innocents being killed. No doubt terrorists had to be killed, but at the expense of civilians. He says, don't defend that. We respect you, but don't defend wrongdoing. This is his question.
No, I have never defended wrongdoing. I stand by my my thinking that we have to get to the bottom of what happened. We have to account for Sri Lankans who lost their lives as a result of the war. But we have to, very clearly state that there was never a policy of targeting civilians during the war by the army.
Certainly, no policy.
But there may have been individuals.
Which is why we now need to look into it.
Yeah, may have been individuals who took the law into their hands and as a result of revenge or whatever reasons targeted civilians who were responsible for disappearances.
And we have it on record.
And that has to be found out. We have to ensure that we find the culprits who were responsible for this, which has given a bad reputation to the army, to the armed forces, and we have to, deal with them.
And there should be a closure and a healing process.
Indeed, and also we do have it on record from a senior member of the armed forces who was forced into retirement with the rank of Major General, who told a British channel that there were definitely orders from the top not to take any surrendees. And we have that on there. And so these are some of the questions that obviously the investigators will need to look at.
Yeah, but there's a contradiction in that, because there were 12,000 ex-combatants who surrendered and who have been accounted for. They have been rehabilitated and they have been reintegrated into society.
This officer was talking about the murder of Prabhakaran's younger son, and all the available evidence was that the unit that took control of his surrender was responsible for essentially his murder, and that is one specific instance which the Sri Lankan government appears unable to defend.
Well, this obviously will be also looked into when this investigative team gets to work, because this has been something that they have always put forward. But it's not only Prabhakaran's son.
No.
I mean, what about all those politicians who were assassinated? What about Lakshman Kadiragama? What about Ravi Raj? What about Joseph Parasingham? What about Jairaj
Sarojini Yogeshwarya, all these,
Maheswaran, so there are those kinds of things also has given us a very negative image.
Yeah, with your permission, we have another question. I think there's a major interest from a student of international relations to the minister. He says, he's asked, his question is, did Sri Lanka promise something to Japan for a yes vote? Similarly, did we promise something to India this time around? At the UN, are we just pawns on a board? Shouldn't the government act independently? So many questions, because he's a student of international relations. And chart our own course. Have you read The clash of civilizations, the most basic literature on foreign relations. Good question from a student of foreign relations.
Well, I don't know whether there have
I haven't read it either.
any promises made. I don't think so, because it was a consensual text. I mean, there was an informal where the resolution was introduced. There were amendments that were suggested. There were discussions that took place. And this consensual text that was agreed upon.
I need to quickly ask you this. When President Sirisena returned from Washington, there was a sort of great tamasha for a welcoming ceremony, I'm being reminded, instead of a tamasha. But anyhow, was that justifiable? Was this a real victory in that sense, or was this merely yet another expensive PR exercise dreamt up by some PR outfit in the United States?
Well, people here in Sri Lanka saw the reception that the president received in New York. They were aware that he was welcomed at the highest level, that there was a lot of respect given to him, even though he represented a small country, an island nation. And people were enthusiastic to receive him in the same manner. I know for a fact, and I can tell you categorically, that he had nothing to do with the reception that was organized at the airport.
But he couldn't possibly have agreed with all those cutouts that were. The cutouts with his image is fine.
Yeah.
But these cutouts also carried images of various other politicians who were responsible for putting these cutouts.
They're planning for the next
I don't want to mention names. But that's almost distasteful.
Yeah, I think it was an oversell. In that respect.
And you're talking the reception for us, your friend, the Prime Minister, Ranil Wickremesinghe, also received a good reception when he was removed by President Kumaratunga when he arrived from Washington.
I was part of that because I was the government whip at that time, and that was actually not because of his removal, but more because of the White House reception that he got, and that famous photograph of President George Bush putting his hand on the shoulder of the Prime Minister. And once again, the Prime Minister didn't have anything to do with it. It was us who organized that reception. There were thousands of people lining the road, for example, and we also know that there were suggestions at that time to go directly from the airport to the President's house.
Which is what he should have done.
With the people, and actually, yes, if he had done that, probably the Defense Ministry would have given back to him.
If he'd done that, the very face of politics in this country would be rather different today. So we shan't forgive him for that. Well, I shan't, anyway.
He didn't take your advice, maybe.
He should have asked his advice.
Minister, thank you very much for coming on our network.
A pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Risking your presence along with Bandula Jayasekara, who sometimes asks the most difficult questions.
That's a major risk.
Yeah. And the greater risk is that he may unfriend you from Facebook on air, like he did yesterday.
As advised by Faras.
The power of social media.
Well, that's what you did to Miss Geeta Kumarasinghe yesterday, and she didn't turn up here. That's absolutely unforgivable, isn't it?
Let's forgive and forget Faras.
It's
good to forgive. Yeah, I forgive.
And
I forgive also.
And have you taken her call?
No, I wouldn't take the call, but we have forgiven and forgotten.
Well, that's I'm sure, a secret that he will not want to die.
We'll have to ask Sarat about that. I'm going to leave you this morning with this small thought. The strongest people aren't always the people who win, but the people who don't give up when they lose. On that thought, I'll say a good morning to you, Bandula.
Thank you, Faras.
Thank you for being here. And good morning to you, viewers, and God bless you.